Yeah, so Blake Lively is apparently, allegedly regretting her legal war against Justin Baldoni. Yeah, are we too connected? Are we too vibing? That's how she described working with Justin Baldoni.
Blake Lively is absolutely losing it after the judge used yet another piece of evidence to wreck her court case. She was busy fangirling over Justin Baldoni, but since he's actually a man of honor and politely shut it down, Blake decided to throw a tantrum and swear revenge like a toddler.
Blake, no receipts Lively, has no receipts.
So Blake Lively thought 2025 was going to be her "I'm a strong woman shutting down my evil ex-boss" era. But it's turning into her "please somebody hide my public recordings" era. That's when Blake, in front of an entire room full of people, and, by the way, cameras, decided to describe working with Baldoni as being too connected and too vibing. Yeah, those were her exact words.
Yeah, are we too connected? Are we too vibing? That's how she described working with Justin Baldoni in June 2024.
Apparently the English language just packed up and left the building that day, because that doesn't sound remotely like someone who's about to scream harassment in a court of law. If you're feeling harassed, you don't usually vibe with your harasser, Blake. Unless you live in some alternate Hollywood reality, which based on this meltdown, she clearly does. And speaking of living in alternate realities, let's talk about America Ferrera. You know, the friend who was supposedly standing tall behind Blake during this whole circus. Well, until she wasn't. America posted a public show of support for Blake, only to yank it down faster than you can say career suicide.
I reported on America Ferrera that she had removed a post from her Instagram grid, the one where she was supporting Blake Lively.
Then, like the human version of an oops text, she quietly put it back up after someone, probably Blake herself, noticed and panicked. Let's be honest here, America looked more spineless than a day-old plate of boiled spaghetti.
It is back. So I don't know what that says about America Ferrera, if she's now supporting Blake again, if it was a mistake. So I don't know what happened there, if America Ferrera got cold feet and thought, oh, Blake is gonna come after me, so I better put that post back up.
And she didn't even bother posting anything else afterward. Like, if you're gonna fake support, at least pretend you care with a follow-up post. But no. America dipped out like someone who realized she got tricked into promoting a sinking ship.
I don't know. I just find it kind of spineless when you support someone publicly and then you remove the support because you get a lot of backlash from it, and then you kind of sneak it back in again. I don't know.
And just when you think this couldn't get more cursed, guess who decided to make a grand entrance? None other than Harvey Weinstein. That's right, Harvey freaking Weinstein. Because when you're fighting for your reputation, obviously the number one guy you want popping out of the shadows to back you up is a convicted sex offender who made Hollywood more toxic than Chernobyl.
Harvey Weinstein came out and said that, and showed support for Baldoni, saying that, you know, you and me, we were treated the same way by New York Times. It's like, no, you weren't. Harvey Weinstein was accused by, I think, like 50 to 100 women. It was so many women, and it was so serious, like really horrific.
Weinstein, in a move so tone-deaf it could break sound barriers, compared his experience with the New York Times to Justin Baldoni's. The man literally said he related to Baldoni's legal fight. Imagine waking up, reading that headline, and realizing Harvey Weinstein thinks you're the victim. I mean, how bad does it have to be when even Harvey wants to stand next to you in court? That's not a PR crisis. That's a full-blown apocalypse.
Harvey Weinstein was accused by, I think, like 50 to 100 women. It was so many women, and it was so serious, like really horrific incidents that he was accused of, and he ended up in jail for it. Now he's saying that he was treated the same way by New York Times that Justin Baldoni was. I just think this is so bad.
Court documents didn't exactly swoop in to save Blake's dignity either. They basically ripped her claims to shreds and left them on the sidewalk for pigeons to pick at. There's being unprepared, and then there's whatever Blake was doing. Turns out, Not only was her evidence a whole lot of nothing, but the recordings she forgot existed made it even worse. It's like bringing a sword to a gunfight, but then realizing the sword is made out of Play-Doh. Now, Blake really expected people to rally around her as the wronged woman fighting against the evil system. But, fun fact, people actually saw her say all those affectionate things about Baldoni during the It Ends With Us event, June 14th, 2024.
With Blake Lively, Brendan Sklenar, and Colleen Hoover when they had a screening. This was in June 14th, so last summer, when they were showing It Ends With Us, a cut that wasn't even ready and that Sony hadn't greenlit or anything like that.
A full, very public, very recorded moment. She wasn't choking back tears talking about her struggle. Nope. She was practically glowing while gushing about how great their working relationship was. She didn't just vibe with him, she lived for the vibes. "We're too connected," she said, probably smiling wide enough to make Colleen Hoover's hairline recede.
But then she said something really interesting.
She's conflicted. Totally. And so that was always an interesting dynamic when you have somebody who's playing the character also being the one like looking at the movie. So we were always like, are we too connected? Are we too vibing?
Yeah, are we too connected? Are we too vibing?
There was no awkward tension, no uncomfortable glances, nothing even remotely resembling fear or distress. Just Blake, publicly broadcasting how much fun she was having. You could have sworn she was auditioning for a rom-com instead of filing harassment claims. And let's be honest. If your own public footage looks like a trailer for Best Friends Forever, maybe rethink trying to spin it into victimhood. The Blake Lively story.
Was Blake Lively talking about Justin Baldoni? She didn't mention him by name, but what she said does not sound like someone who's been harassed by someone.
America Ferrera, dear sweet America, delivered a silent mic drop of her own. First, she tried to erase her support when the backlash got hot. Then, she sneakily brought it back without even so much as a caption explaining herself. And then, crickets. Complete radio silence. It's like someone told her, "Girl, this ship's going down faster than your career if you stay on board." And she was like, "Got it, thanks, bye."
I don't know. She hasn't posted anything else on her Instagram since last time she had removed it. So it's not like it's been pushed in any direction, like a technical glitch, or I don't know how that could have happened.
The public instantly noticed America Ferrera's fake support stunt. Even Blake's A-list friends didn't want the smoke. Blake, meanwhile, acted like nobody would catch on, forgetting this is the internet. Her sad cover-up was like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic while the ship was already sinking. Pure comedy. Honestly, it's kind of beautiful in a tragic, Greek mythology sort of way. The more Blake tried to control the narrative, the faster it unraveled, and every single move just made her look more desperate. First, she fangirls Baldoni on stage, then she cries harassment 6 months later. Then America Ferrera tries to ghost her like a bad Tinder date. Then Harvey Weinstein shows up like a demonic Easter bunny handing out cursed eggs. If Blake was trying to make sure absolutely nobody took her seriously, she's doing a phenomenal job.
If Baldoni would win this case against New York Times, which is very unlikely apparently, that would put Harvey Weinstein's case or that article in the spotlight, and maybe they have to question that.
And here's the real kicker. Despite all this, Blake still thought marching into court with her evidence was gonna save the day. Like some sort of plot twist where suddenly everyone forgets she practically called Baldoni her artistic soulmate in public. I don't know if it's arrogance, denial, or just pure Hollywood brain rot, but whatever it is, it's historic. This isn't a legal strategy, it's a live-action cautionary tale. And Blake isn't just losing the court case, she's losing the court of public opinion, the court of common sense, and frankly, the court of basic human decency. Because when your strongest supporters are deleting their support posts, and Harvey Weinstein is stepping up to defend you, you might want to sit down and reconsider your entire life.
And I didn't like it. So Harvey has actually given out a statement saying that watching Justin Baldoni take legal action against the New York Times and its reporters, accusing them of manipulating communications and ignoring evidence that countered Ms. Lively's claim, hits me hard.
Harvey Weinstein entering Blake Lively's legal drama is exactly the kind of cursed crossover nobody asked for. Like, imagine fighting for your dignity, and then Harvey Weinstein comes storming in like some kind of twisted cheerleader. The man who turned Hollywood into a crime scene thought it was a good idea to publicly support Justin Baldoni, basically sending Blake the worst PR Valentine in human history.
Weinstein continues, it brought back everything I experienced when the Times reported on me in 2017. They did the same thing, cherry-picked what fit their story and ignored critical context and facts that could have challenged the narrative.
And not just any support either. Weinstein had the audacity to say that the New York Times cherry-picked facts in both his and Baldoni's cases. Because yeah, obviously directing a sappy romance movie is exactly the same thing as having over 100 women accuse you of every horror imaginable. Real casual comparison there, Harvey. Totally normal. He actually whined that he didn't fight back against the Times in 2017, as if anyone cared. Nobody was sitting around thinking, you know who really deserves a second chance? Harvey Weinstein.
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not buying this. This is so dumb. Like, right, Harvey Weinstein wouldn't have the courage to speak up about the twisted truth. And he continues to say, that failure still haunts me. I'll be watching this case closely. It matters to anyone who's ever been on the receiving end of a media takedown.
But here he was, dragging his greasy reputation back into the spotlight just to bless Blake's case with his stink. Direct quote from Weinstein's pity party, it still haunts me. What's really haunting is the fact that he thought speaking out would help anyone. If Harvey Weinstein thinks you're the victim, congratulations. You officially lost whatever battle you were fighting. Pack it up, Blake. When the universe is handing you omens that big, even the most oblivious Hollywood princess should take the hint.
So Harvey continued with this statement, and this kind of made me laugh because I think it's just like so ridiculous. He says, I should have stood up and fought back then. I should have had the courage to speak out against the way the truth was twisted. Harvey Weinstein should have had the courage to speak up.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the circus tent, Blake and Ryan Reynolds decided to launch their own PR stunt, which was about as subtle as a fire truck in a library. First, Ryan was spotted looking tense at JFK Airport. You know, because nothing screams natural human emotion like a perfectly lit, paparazzi exclusive shot of you dramatically frowning into the distance. I mean, come on. At this point, it would have been less obvious if he'd just held up a sign saying, please feel sorry for us.
Ryan Reynolds looks tense. He was walking through JFK, the airport in New York, looking tense and showing strain as he escapes New York City alone amid Blake Lively's increasing regret over Justin Baldoni's war.
And Blake? Oh, Blake was out here playing the saddest little actress in the saddest little play. Parade after parade of sad Blake photos flooded the internet with her best please pity me expressions plastered all over cheap tabloid covers. Experts, like actual PR strategists, immediately called it out for what it was. Grief cosplay. Not grief. Not authentic emotion. Cosplay. Like Comic-Con, but for celebrities trying to save face in court.
But anyway, this is now their new PR strategy, I think, to look tense and to look sad. Yeah, yesterday I reported on a story where Blake Lively, with some paparazzi shots of her looking sad, which I said then as well, that I think these photos are just, cherry-picked to make a new narrative here now.
The funniest part? Nobody was buying it. You can slap on all the sad cardigans and messy buns you want, Blake. You can even let a single tear glisten under the right Instagram filter. But when people around you are literally laughing in the background of your staged sadness, maybe the gig is up. Random strangers chuckling while Blake stares into the middle distance like she's auditioning for Les Miserables is just peak comedy.
As well, that I think these photos are just, cherry-picked to make a new narrative here now. So I don't know if she was sad. People around her were laughing. So anyways.
Honestly, it looked less like a natural emotional breakdown and more like Operation Sympathetic Celebrity. A strategy that crashed even harder than Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern career move. And that's saying something. Because if you're losing public sympathy faster than a box office bomb, maybe it's time to rethink the PR plan. But no, Blake being Blake, she couldn't just quietly bow out of the public eye. No, she had to double down. And that's when she decided it was time to accuse Jed Wallace, a PR expert, of masterminding some grand social media war against her. Because obviously, when all else fails, scream conspiracy.
Yeah, so Blake Lively is apparently, allegedly regretting her legal war against Justin Baldoni.
Here's the problem. She had zero proof. Like, not even a fake email or a photoshopped Reddit post. Just pure Hollywood imagination. In her desperate flailing, she claimed Wallace designed and executed a social combat plan against her. Except, plot twist, Wallace's court filings exposed that little lie faster than you can say, embarrassing.
A few days ago, I told you that sexual harassment accuser Blake Lively filed a motion to be dismissed from the lawsuit against her by Jed Wallace in Texas.
Timeline disaster alert. Online sentiment turned against Blake in July 2024. Wallace was hired in August 2024, meaning Blake's reputation was already swirling down the toilet before Wallace even signed a contract. She basically accused a guy of lighting the fire after the building had already burned down and fallen into the ocean.
He is the online social media guru that allegedly helped to manipulate public perception against her. Oh!
And Wallace didn't just shrug it off either. He went on the record, under penalty of perjury, stating that he never posted anything, never directed anyone to post anything, never liked anything shady, never boosted anything, and didn't even sneeze in Blake's general direction online.
Pinocchio did mention in her first amended complaint, as specifically as she could without getting into specifics, that Wallace and his company were, quote, seeding, manipulating, and advancing disparaging content on social media platforms and internet chat forums.
Even better, he swore that a social combat plan wasn't even part of the services he offered for this case, which, honestly, is hilarious. Blake got so paranoid that she invented a full-blown social media conspiracy in her head and tried to bring it to court like it was gospel truth.
Her first amended complaint only mentions that Justin Baldoni's crisis PR expert hired Mr. Wallace and Street Relations, his company, to design and implement a social combat plan.
Meanwhile, back in reality, Wallace is sitting there with zero receipts, zero actions, and a timeline that proves Blake made the whole thing up. If there's one thing Hollywood elites do better than acting, it's filing 141-page complaints packed with absolutely nothing. Because yes, Blake's legal team actually coughed up a 141-page document filled with dramatic allegations, but forgot one tiny little thing called actual evidence.
They point out that this was an allegation made on information and belief, and that this is the type of conclusory allegation based only on information and belief that are not sufficient to provide factual support.
Imagine filing a complaint that thick and not having even a single screenshot, email, or witness to back you up. It's not just embarrassing, it's legendary. Like future law students are going to study this disaster under what not to do when you sue somebody.
He was walking through JFK, the airport in New York, looking tense and showing strain as he escapes New York City alone amid Blake Lively's increasing regret over Justin Baldoni's war.
And don't worry, Blake made sure to top it all off with her signature move, pretending to be shocked when nobody bought it. Because that's what celebrities do when their lies collapse. They don't take accountability, they don't apologize, they just stand there, blinking in the courtroom lights, wondering why the peasants aren't sobbing on their behalf. Jed Wallace didn't just deny Blake's fantasy, he practically threw a party while doing it. And honestly, he deserves it. Because being dragged into a celebrity meltdown over a crime you didn't even commit must be exhausting. Blake tried to turn a PR guy into a villain because she needed a scapegoat for her own public crash and burn. And all she got in return was another brick wall of legal failure and public mockery.
I'm sorry, Harvey, you were convicted in court by really serious allegations and you deserve to stay in jail.
Blake Lively didn't just lose the plot. She threw the plot out the window, set it on fire, and tried to blame the ashes on everyone else. Blake Lively's legal claims were supposed to be the smoking gun. Turns out, they were more like a smoke machine at a kid's birthday party. A lot of noise, zero danger. Jed Wallace's motion to dismiss didn't just poke holes in Blake's lawsuit.
And then you kind of sneak it back in again? I don't know. She hasn't posted anything else on her Instagram since last time she had removed it.
It ripped the whole thing apart like a cheap Halloween costume. Out of 482 paragraphs. Yes, 482. And 5 full exhibits, you'd think Blake's team could manage just one actual accusation that sticks. Instead, it was 482 paragraphs of pure, unfiltered Hollywood blabber. Imagine filing what basically amounts to a bloated Netflix script and expecting a judge to treat it seriously. Wallace and his company, Street Relations, barely even got a shout-out in the entire thing. If this were a movie, critics wouldn't just call it overwritten. They'd say the supporting characters were so underdeveloped they made background extras in a Marvel movie look deep.
She spilled some private health information about Jed Wallace, letting the world know that he suffered a life-threatening health incident as a result of her and being served.
And honestly, calling this whole disaster Hollywood fiction was generous. Wallace's team could have gone harder, but they probably felt bad for wasting the court's time. If your lawsuit reads like a rejected Hallmark movie script, where the small-town girl gets sued by the guy who didn't even know he was in a fight, maybe don't bring it to a real court. It's one thing to lose a PR war, it's another thing entirely to lose because your entire argument sounds like a first-year creative writing project that got a C-.
Additionally, they claim that Lively has her general allegations on his conduct all wrong. Wallace or Street, his company, did not post anything on social media on behalf of the Wayfarer parties.
You'd think after filing a lawsuit thicker than most college textbooks, Blake would at least come armed with one solid piece of evidence. Instead, the courtroom got treated to a parade of wishful thinking and emotional outbursts dressed up as legal claims. It's not just sloppy, it's embarrassing. If Blake's legal team charged her by the paragraph, she better be asking for a refund rewrite about now.
They are going on the record stating that Jed Wallace and his company didn't direct or ask anyone to post anything about the same.
And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, the new evidence showed up like a wrecking ball aimed directly at Blake's fragile case. Turns out, footage of Blake herself gushing about how connected and vibey she felt working with Justin Baldoni is now on the official record. You know, the same Baldoni she's accusing of making her life miserable. Nothing says, "I'm traumatized," quite like a room full of people watching you giggle and fangirl about your alleged oppressor.
That doesn't sound like a person that has harassed her that she's describing. Like, really?
The judge didn't even have to say much. Just quietly sitting there, side-eyeing Blake's so-called evidence, probably wondering if he accidentally walked into an SNL skit. Because when the first piece of evidence you present is yourself looking absolutely thrilled to be working with the guy you're suing, it's not a good day in court. It's not even a day. It's a public roast session, and Blake's the main course. Then Jed Wallace comes through again, dropping receipts like it's Black Friday. His do-nothing advice absolutely torpedoes Blake's claim that there was some grand conspiracy to ruin her.
Because what did he do? What did he do?
Wallace didn't just deny being involved in the alleged social media takedown. He actually proved he recommended doing literally nothing because Baldoni was already getting natural support online. Turns out, Blake's whole "they sabotaged me" meltdown wasn't sabotage at all. It was Reddit users dunking on her organically.
They didn't publish, directly or indirectly, any information or content, negative or otherwise, regarding Lively.
Blake got wrecked by random teenagers online, not some evil PR plot. She brought a fantasy lawsuit, got laughed out of court, and lost all credibility in one shot. Between the fake sadness, Weinstein's cursed endorsement, and ghosting friends, Blake's reputation didn't just crack. It completely disintegrated. And speaking of disasters, let's not forget the grand finale. Blake's self-inflicted legal implosion. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't Justin Baldoni, it wasn't Jed Wallace, it wasn't the Reddit trolls, or even the New York Times that nuked Blake's reputation. It was Blake. Blake, with her big mouth, her bigger ego, and her absolute refusal to read the room even once.
Ironic, given the fact that the Nepo baby fought so hard for an extra protective order in New York and that case because she was worried about her health information leaking.
Nobody forced her to gush about Baldoni in front of a live audience. Nobody held a gun to her head and made her accuse a PR expert of crimes he wasn't even around for. Nobody told her to parade around in sad cardigans and call it activism. Every wrong step, every bad move, every cringy, desperate PR play was her own doing. Blake's strategy wasn't just bad, it was self-sabotage with sprinkles on top. The PR team probably quit halfway through and started betting against her in secret. The lawyers probably aged a decade trying to explain that you can't just walk into court waving Instagram screenshots and calling it evidence. And the public? The public didn't just turn against her. They laughed her off the stage and kept scrolling. And now she's heading into March 2025 with nothing but a court date, a shredded reputation, and a pile of celebrity friends pretending they don't know her. This upcoming trial isn't going to be a dramatic Hollywood redemption arc. It's going to be a slow, painful train wreck with everyone watching and nobody looking away. Because sometimes, the villain isn't the media. It isn't the PR machines. It isn't even your alleged enemies. Sometimes the real villain is just being Blake Lively. Blake's meltdown is pure entertainment, so smash that subscribe button and stick around. Trust me, this train wreck's just getting started.